And at the age of 13, she was discriminated against because of the color of her skin, and she was denied access to a public pool. And what she ended up doing to fight back is she wrote a letter to an editor explaining and sharing her experience. At a young age, her family continued to teach her to oppose oppression and any injustice, personal as well as social injustice everywhere. They were heavily involved in the church, and her dad was a reverend. And so she was just destined for greatness to continue fighting back, and always stood in her courage. She ended up marrying uh, W.E. Du Bois, who's also doing Pan Africanism, and they ended up moving to Ghana. And she was fighting against imperialism, colonialism, in Europe, in Asia, and in Africa. And they even got denied access to coming to this country because of the work that they were doing, calling out capitalism and imperialism when in 1974, when they tried to come here. And so their work was a threat to this country, the work she was doing. She also was involved in the Fifth Pan African Congress, which was focused on decolonizing Africa, as well as unifying our people across the diaspora, working to build independent social and economic power. So we just thank Shirley Graham Du Bois, and we just elevate you in this space, and we thank you for the work that you've done, and we continue the work again of our ancestors. The second thing that we do is we do a land acknowledgement. And when we do it, it is just not words. We mean it with everything. We are speaking in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. This is Tiwa land. This is Tiwa land. This land belongs to the indigenous people. This whole country belongs to the indigenous people. It's Turtle Island. This land needs to be returned, and it will be returned because they are organizing, and we are organizing in solidarity for their land back, as well as for our land back in Africa. And Anya Sabu always says it, and it is so true. No matter how long something was stolen, it needs to be returned. We believe that, and we organize in solidarity to fight for that. So, jumping into the show, around class struggle in African America. So in society, we are constantly conditioned to align ourselves or see ourselves in other Africans. And we see this repeatedly happen, especially in the middle class. And and tremendously over the last, 20-year decade, there's been this huge income equality gap, where it's really having and dividing that class struggle. And so class struggle is our reality. It's the reality because under capitalism and how it works and operates, the middle class pulls in and hones in on that notion of that pull your bootstraps mentality, which is the narrative like if you work hard, you can get anything you want. And it doesn't address the conditions in our communities, right, that are deeply rooted in poverty and other issues that are impacted because of capitalism. And so it's been such an effective tool, and it's allowed imperialism to grow. For example, there's like six Europeans that own like the global wealth that was stolen, that was exploited. And four of them come from the US empire. And with class struggle, we have to look at a global lens because people who are being impacted are impacted globally because the way they continue to profit, the middle class, as well as the wealthy, is off the profiting of others. And so there's this like notion of like harmonizing that people that are middle class, that are Africans, or billionaires that are African can be harmonized or assimilated into the system. And they're also profiting off the enslavement of people and the exploitation of people. And I think that this is as if they assimilate, they won't be impacted. And that's not true. Like there's this falsehood of like you assimilate, and you'll be accepted. Give you a clear example. So like in 2013, we saw Oprah, right, traveling in Switzerland and trying to purchase a $38,000 purse. So what happened with that? The salesperson said it's too expensive. So it's a purse behind a glass, wouldn't give it to her, thinking that she was going to steal it. And what happened is the color of her skin, right? So she's seen as African no matter where she goes, like her blackness. Um, her Blackness, no matter where she goes, is what stands out. And so this class struggle is really detrimental to our society. And so when I think about that, that purse was $38,000. In New Mexico, the average annual income is 27,000. So that purse would cost more than like one person working like one whole year to provide for like a family of three. And so none of the money that Oprah's making or other millionaires or billionaires, think of your famous one that you know, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, think of all of them. None of them are in the work of involving, of liberating our people. They are actually profiting from the people suffering, and impoverished people are purchasing items as well to continue their wealth, and the wealth gap that's happening. And so that is not to be celebrated, like this class struggle is not to be celebrated. Um, the other thing is, all of it is like the real enemy in all of this is capitalism, oppression, and white supremacy. So we're connected, but because of the conditioning, they've been trying to continually disconnect us. So we have to unpack that class struggle so we can dismantle it, so we can have a pathway to liberation together. And that's important. So if African millionaires to side with the enemy, it actually stifles the liberation of our people. And so there's an example, right? There was this nationwide work that was happening around the call to abolishing the police. So during the summer, with the horrendous murder of George Floyd, we saw tremendous uprising all over this country, including Africa and other countries that were in solidarity. Could see that our people are continuously impacted through systematic racism. And so this call for abolishing police was worldwide. And we saw people like Tyler Perry saying, well, actually, I don't want to abolish the police. We need more police officers. So like this millionaire person is advocating for something that actually doesn't help us. You know, this city, Albuquerque, is the most reformed police department and also the most violent. They have the most fatal shootings 4 years in a row. So we know that abolition is the abolition, abolishing the police is a better pathway versus more police, because it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work in this country because of how the policing was developed through white supremacy. And so again, like that impedes the struggle, like that impedes our liberation when you have Africans who are millionaires trying to speak for us, and they do not speak for us because they are not connected to the people and what's actually happening. And that's what should be happening. Another example is the NBA players. So NBA players were wanting and desiring to strike, to align themselves with the Black Lives Matter movement. And what we saw is many of them were speaking up and they were going to strike. And it was going to be monumental. And what we saw was the petty bourgeoisie, like having Obama come in and saying, no, what could be more effective is if you play and just continue to bring awareness about what's happening with Black lives. No, wrong. Like, really, Obama, why would you interfere with something that could have been so monumental for our people? And it was intentional. His interference was intentional because a strike in the MPA is huge, right? Is huge. And it could have really elevated the issues of happening to our people. We know strikes work. We saw the Montgomery boycott and what happened. So we know that strikes work, and it allows people to be in solidarity also with the working class. And so it was a missed opportunity, you know, and hopefully there will be more opportunities. Like they can strike now. Like people can strike in all of those different careers that are making millions and millions of dollars. They don't have to strike just because there's a murder of our people. Our people are being murdered every day and harmed every day because of capitalism and imperialism. They can just make that solidarity and strike at any time. And so the real work the real work that has to happen is being in solidarity to like to achieve like that unity as well, in order to like liberate our people, to break those shackles of capitalism and break and dismantle them. Um, so what the class struggle does, because it's so intentional in dividing us, what it does is it's a ploy and it's a strategy that's been working for far too long. And when we're shedding light about capitalism and Africans who are millionaires and billionaires, it is not us being like, oh, it's not us being like the way that they say they're like, oh, you're internalizing self-hate. No, we're internalizing oppression. We're internalizing our people suffering, not internalizing, we're against our people suffering. We're against what capitalism does. And so we have to build class consciousness. So that's what we're doing when we're talking about class struggle, when we're bringing the realities to these people who are making millions of dollars that we're somehow supposed to be connected to, when they're not seeing the realities of what we're facing, right? And so if they could do that and see that and be more aligned to us, we would have an impact. And so they are more aligned to us because of, of oppression. They are aligned to us, but they continue to align themselves to be part of like the wealthy. And so again, there can be the class struggle will continue unless there's solidarity. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to my comrade Onya Savu, who's going to talk more.